Gunshots shatter the night on Highway 47. Officer Kyle Brennan's weapon discharged 3 times into the black SUV. His partner, Officer Mike Stratton, fired twice more. The driver's window exploded into fragments. Suspect is armed. Shots fired. Brennan screamed into his radio, voice cracking with manufactured panic. Inside the vehicle, Devon Pierce's hand moved with precision honed by thousands of hours of combat training. Navy SEAL reflexes don't die during traffic stops. His weapon cleared leather in 1.2 seconds. Return fire. Controlled. Accurate. Brennan dropped behind his cruiser, shock replacing false confidence. He's shooting back. He's actually. The dashcam caught everything. The planted evidence in Brennan's pocket. The throwaway weapon ready to drop. The coordinated lies already forming. What they didn't know, Devon Pierce wasn't just any SEAL. He was Admiral Pierce's son. And his body camera was streaming directly to naval intelligence servers. This traffic stop was about to become a federal case. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. 6 hours earlier, Oakmont basked in golden afternoon sunlight. The small city of 45,000 people prided itself on being America's safest community. Billboards proclaimed it. The mayor repeated it in every speech. Nobody mentioned what safe really meant, or who it was safe for. Devon Pierce merged onto Highway 47 heading home from the naval base 3 hours north. His black SUV was clean, registration current, insurance valid. Everything by the book. SEALs operated that way, on and off duty. At 32, he'd completed 4 tours, earned 2 Bronze Stars, and survived situations that would break most men. Today was supposed to be simple. Visit his father, Admiral Marcus Pierce, stationed temporarily at the coastal base. Grab dinner. Drive home to his apartment in the city. No drama. No complications. His phone buzzed with a text from his father, "Drive safe, son. Proud of you. Call when you're home." Devon smiled and set the phone in its mount. He adjusted his rearview mirror, checking the road behind him out of habit. Clear highway. Light traffic. Cruise control set at exactly 65 miles per hour in a 65 zone. The SUV's interior was immaculate. Registration in the glove box. Insurance card clipped to the visor. His military ID in his wallet alongside his driver's license. His legally registered Glock 19 secured in its holster under his jacket, concealed carry permit current and valid. Devon had been pulled over twice in his life. Both times he'd followed protocol perfectly, hands on the wheel, interior light on, documents ready, polite compliance with every instruction. Both times he'd driven away with warnings, not tickets. He knew the game. Play it smart, stay alive. What Devon didn't know was that Oakmont Police Department had quotas. Not the official kind mentioned in policy manuals, but the understood kind whispered in locker rooms. Traffic stops in certain areas. Arrests from certain demographics. Numbers that justified federal funding and military equipment grants. Officer Kyle Brennan sat in his cruiser at the Highway 47 exit, radar gun idle in his lap. His shift was ending in 2 hours, and his monthly numbers were low. His partner, Mike Stratton, scrolled through his phone in the passenger seat, bored and restless. "Dead night," Stratton muttered. "Chief's gonna be on our ass about productivity again." Brennan didn't respond. His eyes tracked vehicles with practiced assessment. Soccer mom minivan, no. Elderly couple in a sedan, no. Pickup truck with contractor logos, no. Then Devon's SUV passed. Black male, driving alone, nice vehicle, out-of-county plates. "There," Brennan said, sitting up straighter. Stratton glanced up. "What did he do?" "Doesn't matter. Find something." The cruiser's lights activated. Red and blue strobed across the darkening highway. Devon saw the lights immediately. His heart rate stayed steady, SEAL training controlling his physiological response. He signaled, checked his mirrors, and pulled onto the shoulder exactly as taught in driver's education. Engine off. Hands on wheel. Interior light on. Documents ready. He took a slow breath. This was routine. He'd done nothing wrong. Protocol would protect him. In the cruiser, Brennan radioed dispatch with practiced casualness. Traffic stop, Highway 47, mile marker 23. Black SUV, license plate, running it now. Stratton grabbed the throwaway pistol from under his seat, a scratched Ruger with filed serial numbers they'd confiscated months ago and never logged. Insurance policy, Brennan called it. Just in case we need to justify something. The dispatch response came back clean. Registration valid. No warrants. Owner is Devon Pierce, age 32, Oakmont resident. Copy that, Brennan responded, killing the radio. He checked his body camera. The department-issued ones had convenient blind spots and audio glitches that activated with the right button sequence. He'd practiced it 100 times. Stratton positioned his own camera, angling it away from the throwaway weapon now tucked in his belt. Devon watched both officers approach in his mirrors. Standard two-officer stop. Driver's side and passenger side. His hands remained visible on the steering wheel. Everything was about to go wrong, and he had no idea why. Officer Brennan approached the driver's window with calculated swagger. His hand rested on his holstered weapon, a gesture meant to intimidate rather than protect. Behind him, Stratton positioned himself at the passenger side, boxing Devon in. License and registration, Brennan demanded without greeting. No good evening or explanation for the stop. Devon moved slowly, deliberately. My license is in my wallet in my back pocket. My registration is in the glove box. I'm also carrying a legally registered firearm with a valid concealed carry permit. How would you like me to proceed? The textbook disclosure. Everything by the book. Brennan's jaw tightened. You telling me you have a weapon? Yes, sir. Glock 19, holstered under my jacket. I have a valid permit. I'm informing you as required by law. Step out of the vehicle. Now. Devon's training screamed warnings. The officer's tone, the aggressive posture, the absence of any stated violation. But compliance was survival. He opened the door slowly, hands visible. I'm stepping out now. My movements will be slow and clear. Brennan grabbed Devon's arm the moment he emerged, spinning him against the SUV with unnecessary force. Hands on the vehicle. Spread your legs. Sir, I've committed no violation. Shut up. You don't talk unless I tell you to talk. Stratton circled to the passenger side, peering through windows with his flashlight. The SUV's interior showed nothing suspicious. Gym bag in the back seat. Water bottles. A military duffel. Everything clean and organized. Brennan's hands found Devon's holstered weapon. Got a gun here, Mike. I disclosed that, Devon said calmly. I have a permit. I said shut up. Brennan yanked the Glock free, handling it like contaminated evidence rather than a legally carried firearm. You think you can just drive around armed? Think you're some kind of tough guy? Devon's jaw clenched. Every instinct told him this wasn't about traffic law. This was about power, about putting him in his place. But arguing with armed cops was suicide. A sedan slowed as it passed, the driver's face illuminated by phone light. Recording. Brennan noticed and waved them on aggressively. Keep moving. Police business. The car accelerated away, but the damage was done. Someone was watching. Stratton opened the passenger door without permission, searching through the center console. The glove box. Under the seats. Looking for anything to justify what was about to happen. Vehicle search requires consent or probable cause, Devon said quietly, knowing it wouldn't matter. You gave consent when you started acting suspicious, Brennan snapped. I haven't acted suspicious. I've complied with every instruction. Brennan leaned close, his breath hot against Devon's ear. You're a smartass, aren't you? Think you're better than us? Bet you're one of those types who files complaints, talks about rights, makes our job difficult. Devon said nothing. Silence was safer than truth. Stratton found Devon's military ID in the wallet. Hey Kyle, he's military. Navy. Brennan snatched it, studying the ID with open contempt. Military doesn't mean shit on my highway. You follow my rules here. He pocketed Devon's concealed carry permit along with his license. I'm confiscating these pending investigation of weapons violations. There are no violations, Devon said evenly. Everything is legal and properly documented. That's for me to decide. Traffic passed sporadically. Each vehicle slowed, occupants craning necks to watch the black man spread against the SUV, two white officers controlling him. Some recorded. Most just drove on, grateful it wasn't them. Brennan's radio crackled with another call. Domestic disturbance across town. Actual police work requiring actual police. We need to wrap this, Stratton said quietly. Brennan nodded, decision made. His hand moved to the throwaway weapon tucked in his belt, hidden from Devon's view and conveniently obscured from his body camera's angle. Get back in your vehicle, Brennan ordered suddenly. Devon complied, confused by the abrupt shift. Something felt wrong. The energy had changed from harassment to something darker. As Devon settled into the driver's seat, Brennan positioned himself at the window, hand near his service weapon. Stratton moved to the passenger side, mirroring the stance. Start your engine, Brennan commanded. Devon's combat instincts screamed danger. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't normal. But refusing a direct order would give them justification for whatever they planned next. His hand moved toward the ignition. That's when Brennan's hand dropped to his weapon, and Devon knew with absolute certainty, they were going to shoot him. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Devon's hand froze inches from the ignition. Every sense sharpened to combat clarity. Brennan's weight shifted to his back foot. Drawing stance. Stratton's hand moved to his holster. They were creating their narrative. Black man reaches for ignition. Officers perceive threat. Justified shooting. I said start the engine. Brennan shouted, voice elevated for the recording. Devon's mind calculated survival in microseconds. Start the car, they shoot claiming he tried to flee. Refuse, they shoot claiming noncompliance. Comply perfectly, they shoot anyway and plant the throwaway weapon. He saw Stratton's hand emerge with something metallic. Not his service weapon. The throwaway. Devon's hand moved, but not toward the ignition. Brennan drew. Gun. He's reaching for a gun. The first shot shattered the driver's window. Safety glass exploded inward, fragments cutting Devon's face. Brennan fired twice more. One round punched through the headrest where Devon's skull had been milliseconds before. Another punctured the dashboard. Stratton fired through the passenger window. 2 shots. Wild. Panicked. 5 rounds total. 0 hits. Because Devon Pierce wasn't in the seat anymore. SEAL close-quarters combat training isn't theoretical. It's muscle memory built through 10,000 repetitions. When the first shot fired, Devon was already moving. Drop. Roll. Draw. Acquire target. His Glock, Brennan's mistake leaving it on the passenger seat, came up smooth. His body positioned behind the engine block. Maximum cover. Clear sight lines. Return fire. 3 rounds. Controlled pairs +1. Brennan's shot shattered the cruiser's windshield. The second hit his ballistic vest center mass, driving him backward. The third, Devon didn't aim to kill, SEALs controlled their shots, hit Brennan's shooting arm. His service weapon clattered to pavement. Stratton froze, weapon half-raised, suddenly understanding he wasn't facing some scared civilian. He was facing a trained operator who'd survived ambushes in Kandahar. "Drop it!" Devon's voice carried command authority that made Stratton's hands obey before his brain processed. The weapon hit the ground. "On your knees. Hands behind your head." Stratton complied, shaking. Brennan writhed on the asphalt, clutching his arm, screaming into his radio. "Officer down! Officer down!" Suspect fired on police. The next car that passed didn't slow down. The driver had filmed everything. The video was already uploading to social media before they reached the next exit. Devon's hands didn't shake. His breathing stayed controlled. His weapon remained trained on both officers as he moved to secure Stratton's gun, then Brennan's. Devon Pierce, United States Navy SEAL, he stated clearly for any recording devices. "I have just defended myself against what I perceived as an imminent lethal threat during an unlawful traffic stop. I am securing the scene and requesting immediate backup from non-Oakmont law enforcement." His phone was in his pocket. One-handed, never losing his sight picture on both officers, he activated voice command. "Call Admiral Marcus Pierce." 2 rings. "Devon? You home safe?" "Dad, I need you to listen carefully. I've just been involved in a shooting with Oakmont police on Highway 47. I'm uninjured. 2 officers down, non-lethal wounds. I need Navy legal representation immediately and federal law enforcement response. This was an attempted execution." Silence. Then his father's voice, transformed from parent to 4-star admiral in one breath. "Are you secure?" "Affirmative. Scene controlled. Do not speak to anyone except Navy legal counsel. Help is inbound. I'm making calls now." The line stayed connected. Devon heard his father barking orders to staff officers. Phrases like federal jurisdiction and immediate response and full protective detail. Sirens wailed in the distance. Multiple vehicles. Oakmont backup responding to officer down calls. Devon calculated odds. More cops from the same department. No witnesses except recordings. His word against theirs. Then Brennan laughed through his pain. Bitter. Desperate. "You're dead, boy. You just killed yourself. Every cop in 3 counties is coming. You think your daddy's rank saves you from killing cops?" Devon met his eyes with zero emotion. "I didn't kill anyone. Unlike you, I actually know how to shoot." More sirens. Closer now. Devon stood in the killing zone of Highway 47, weapon trained on 2 wounded officers, waiting for either salvation or execution. His body camera, the one they didn't know about, the experimental Navy tech sewn into his jacket collar, had streamed everything to secure military servers. The truth was documented. But truth didn't always matter when black men shot white cops. The first backup unit crested the hill, lights blazing. 6 Oakmont police cruisers converged on Highway 47 with tactical precision. Officers emerged with rifles raised, shouting commands that contradicted each other. Devon stood with hands raised, weapon on the ground at his feet, bathed in a dozen spotlights. On the ground. Face down. "Do it now." Devon complied slowly, every movement calculated for survival. Knees. Hands. Face against cold asphalt. Gravel bit into his cheek. The same position Brennan had forced him into 15 minutes ago. Boots surrounded him. Hands yanked his arms back. Zip ties cut into his wrists. Got him. Suspect secured. Brennan was loaded onto a stretcher, still screaming. He tried to kill us. Unprovoked. Just started shooting. EMTs worked on his arm wound while he played victim. Stratton sat in shock against a cruiser, giving his statement. Routine traffic stop. He went crazy. Pulled a weapon. We barely survived. The narrative was forming. Coordinated. Rehearsed. "Devon Pierce, you're under arrest for attempted murder of police officers," Sergeant Walsh announced, reading Miranda rights with obvious satisfaction. "Anything you say." "I invoke my right to remain silent and request legal counsel," Devon stated clearly. "I will provide no statement except to Navy legal representatives or federal investigators." Walsh's face darkened. "You don't get special treatment because you're military. I'm invoking constitutional rights available to all citizens." They loaded Devon into a cruiser. No gentle hand on his head. They wanted his skull to hit the doorframe. Accidentally. At Oakmont Police Headquarters, the processing was deliberately slow. Photographs. Fingerprints. Property confiscation. Each step designed to humiliate, to break compliance through bureaucratic torture. "Phone call," Devon requested. "Later. Processing isn't complete. I'm entitled to a phone call." "You'll get one when I say you get one." What they didn't know, Devon's phone was still connected to his father's secure line. The call had never disconnected. Every word, every denial of rights, transmitted directly to Admiral Pierce's command center. At the naval base, Marcus Pierce had transformed his office into a war room. 3 captains, 2 JAG officers, and a direct line to the Pentagon filled the space with urgent activity. "Status?" Marcus demanded. Captain Reynolds, JAG, reported crisply. Body camera footage transmitted successfully. Full video documentation of the incident from Lieutenant Pierce's perspective. Audio clear. Visual clear. No gaps. Oakmont PD's version? Dashboard camera conveniently malfunctioned. Both officers' body cameras showed technical difficulties during the critical moments. They're claiming Devon fired without provocation. But we have the truth. We have more than truth, sir. We have evidence. Reynolds pulled up footage on 3 monitors simultaneously. "Watch." The video played. Crystal clear. Devon's compliance. Brennan's aggression. The planted weapon. The execution setup. The justified self-defense. "Get this to FBI immediately," Marcus ordered. "And DOJ Civil Rights Division. I want federal jurisdiction invoked before Oakmont can bury this." At Oakmont PD, Chief Robert Stone reviewed Brennan's report in his office. Police brutality attorney Michael Hayes was already blowing up his phone. News vans assembled outside. Social media exploded with partial footage from passing drivers. This was containable. Probably. If they moved fast and controlled the narrative. Press conference in 1 hour, Stone told his PR team. Officers confronted an armed subject who fired upon them. They returned fire in self-defense. Subject taken into custody. Investigation ongoing. His phone rang. Unfamiliar number. Washington, D.C. area code. "Chief Stone? This is Assistant Director Jennifer Torres, FBI. We're assuming jurisdiction over the Devon Pierce case effective immediately." Stone's stomach dropped. "On what grounds?" "Civil rights violation. Attempted deprivation of rights under color of law. And federal interest due to Lieutenant Pierce's military status and the involvement of potential evidence tampering." "Now wait just a minute. Federal agents are en route to your facility. Lieutenant Pierce will be transferred to federal custody within the hour. Any interference will result in obstruction charges. Are we clear?" The line went dead. Stone stared at his phone, then at Brennan's carefully constructed report, then at the gathering news vans. "Get me the mayor," he said quietly. "We have a problem." In his holding cell, Devon sat with military stillness. Waiting. Calculating. His father had taught him that battles weren't won through panic. They were won through preparation, patience, and overwhelming force applied at the critical moment. The door opened. Not Oakmont officers. Federal agents and FBI windbreakers. "Lieutenant Pierce? We're here to transfer you to federal custody." Devon stood. "Am I still under arrest?" You're being held as a material witness pending investigation. Your status will be clarified once we review all evidence. They cut his zip ties. Replaced them with professional cuffs. Respectful rather than punitive. As they led him through the police station, Devon passed Brennan in the hallway. The officer's arm was bandaged, his face pale with shock and realization. Their eyes met. Brennan saw his career ending. His freedom evaporating. His carefully constructed lie collapsing. Devon saw justice. Not revenge. Justice. Should have let me drive away, Devon said quietly. Outside, 3 black SUVs waited. Federal presence. Real authority. Not local cops playing soldier. Admiral Pierce stood beside the lead vehicle in full dress uniform. Father and son locked eyes. No words needed. Marcus nodded once. Devon nodded back. "Let's go home," Marcus said. By dawn, the Devon Pierce shooting was national news. Not because of what happened, but because of what it revealed. FBI forensic teams descended on Highway 47 like an occupying force. Evidence markers covered the asphalt. 3 separate investigations launched simultaneously: FBI Civil Rights, Navy Criminal Investigative Service, and Department of Justice. The body camera footage leaked within 12 hours. Not accidentally. Admiral Pierce ensured it reached the right journalists through channels that couldn't be traced back to official sources. The video went viral instantly. 20 million views by noon. 50 million by evening. Crystal clear footage showing everything: Brennan's aggression, the planted weapon, the execution setup, Devon's textbook self-defense. Undeniable. Damning. Complete. Oakmont Police Department lied, CNN's headline read. Navy SEAL's body camera contradicts official police narrative. MSNBC, traffic stop or assassination attempt? Federal investigation reveals disturbing pattern. Even Fox News, typically pro-police, couldn't spin this one. When good shoots go bad, officers accused of planting evidence. Attorney Michael Hayes held a press conference outside federal court. Behind him stood Devon in dress uniform, every medal earned through blood and sacrifice visible. The visual contrast was deliberate. War hero versus corrupt cops. "My client is not a criminal," Hayes stated firmly. "He's a decorated Navy SEAL who survived 4 combat tours only to nearly die at the hands of officers sworn to protect him. The only crime committed on Highway 47 was by officers Brennan and Stratton." Questions exploded from reporters. Will Lieutenant Pierce face charges? Absolutely not. The video evidence clearly shows justifiable self-defense against an imminent lethal threat. We expect all charges dismissed and a formal apology from Oakmont PD. What about the officers? That's for federal prosecutors to decide. But evidence of civil rights violations, evidence tampering, and attempted murder under color of law seems overwhelming. Devon stood silent, letting his attorney speak. His presence alone told the story. Dignified. Professional. Everything Brennan had tried to destroy. The FBI investigation expanded rapidly. Agent Torres assembled a task force that grew from 6 agents to 20 within 48 hours. "We're not investigating one traffic stop," she told her team. "We're investigating a pattern." Database searches revealed troubling statistics. Oakmont PD's traffic stop demographics showed black drivers were stopped at 7 times the rate of white drivers despite representing only 12% of the population. Use of force incidents, 73% involved minorities. Citizen complaints, 847 filed in 3 years. Action taken, 0. Federal funding applications. Oakmont PD had received $2.3 million in grants claiming community policing excellence and civil rights compliance. They lied on federal documents to get federal money, Torres said. That's fraud. Wire fraud. Mail fraud. We can prosecute this 10 different ways. The parallel investigation by NCIS uncovered something worse. Oakmont PD had stopped 17 active-duty military personnel in the past 2 years. 15 were minorities. 12 reported harassment beyond normal traffic stop procedures. None had filed formal complaints because military personnel avoid civilian legal entanglements. It creates career complications. But NCIS didn't care about complications. They protected their people. Oakmont PD has been systematically targeting military personnel, Commander Peterson reported to Admiral Pierce. Not random. Deliberate pattern. They're profiling service members who pass through their jurisdiction. Why? Marcus asked. Best guess? Asset forfeiture. Military folks often carry cash, have nice vehicles, hold security clearances that make them reluctant to fight charges. Easy targets. The financial investigation revealed the truth. Oakmont PD's budget showed $450,000 in civil asset forfeitures over 3 years. Vehicles. Cash. Property. Seized during traffic stops and never returned. The money funded equipment purchases, overtime pay, and officer bonuses. Traffic stops weren't law enforcement. They were revenue generation through legalized theft. Social media amplified every revelation. #Justice for Devon trended worldwide. Veterans organizations mobilized. The Navy SEAL community, notoriously protective of their own, made their position clear. "You don't touch our brothers," read one viral post showing 24 SEALs in uniform. Devon Pierce is a hero. Period. Local activists who'd complained about Oakmont PD for years suddenly had national attention. Jessica Martinez, community organizer, appeared on national news with evidence she'd been documenting for 18 months. "We tried telling people," she said, holding up binders full of incident reports. Nobody listened until a Navy SEAL nearly died. How many civilians suffered before someone believed us? Mayor Linda Vasquez called an emergency city council meeting. The room packed beyond capacity. Cameras everywhere. Anger palpable. "This administration takes these allegations seriously," Vasquez began. "Allegations," someone shouted. "There's video evidence. We demand Chief Stone's resignation. Fire Brennan. Fire Stratton. Fire everyone who covered for them." The political pressure became unbearable. City council members who defended police funding now scrambled to distance themselves. Campaign donations from police unions suddenly became toxic. By week's end, 3 Oakmont officers were placed on administrative leave. Not just Brennan and Stratton. A third officer who'd been present at previous suspicious stops. Federal prosecutors convened a grand jury. The charges under consideration were severe: deprivation of rights under color of law, conspiracy against rights, falsification of official documents, evidence tampering, attempted murder. Combined maximum sentences, 40 years federal prison. Chief Stone held a damage control press conference that made things worse. A few bad apples don't represent the entire department. But federal investigators had found the whole barrel was rotten. And Devon Pierce's near-death had exposed it all. Oakmont's power structure fought back with desperate ferocity. This wasn't just about 2 cops anymore. This was about protecting a system that had enriched politicians, funded city programs, and maintained a specific social order for decades. The smear campaign started on social media. Anonymous accounts with professional graphics flooded Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Devon Pierce wasn't a hero. He was a troubled veteran with PTSD who'd attacked innocent officers. The body camera footage was edited and doctored by military intelligence. His military record contained classified incidents that raised questions about his stability. None of it was true. All of it spread like wildfire. Conservative news outlets ran segments questioning Devon's past. What really happened during his deployments? Why did he have a concealed weapon during a routine traffic stop? Why did he refuse to comply with lawful orders? The weaponization of doubt. Make people question obvious truth until nothing seemed certain. Anonymous threats escalated. Devon's apartment address leaked online. His phone number. His father's duty station. Death threats arrived hourly. You should have died on that highway. Cop killers deserve what's coming. Your father can't protect you forever. Admiral Pierce received letters threatening his son, his career, his life. Professional psychological warfare from people who understood how to break targets through relentless pressure. Attorney Michael Hayes found his car vandalized. Brake lines cut. A professional job designed to look like an accident. He hired private security and kept fighting. Jessica Martinez, the activist who provided evidence of systemic abuse, faced coordinated harassment. Her employer received fabricated complaints about her work performance. Her landlord suddenly discovered lease violations requiring eviction. Her bank account was hacked, leaving her financially paralyzed for days. The FBI investigation became the target. Agent Torres received anonymous packages containing veiled threats. Her agents were followed off duty. Someone leaked their hotel locations online, inviting confrontation. They're trying to intimidate federal investigators, Torres reported to her superiors. That's obstruction of justice. We need to respond with overwhelming force. Oakmont's legal team filed motions challenging federal jurisdiction. They claimed Devon should face state charges for attempted murder. They demanded the body camera footage be excluded as improperly obtained military surveillance. Brennan and Stratton hired high-profile defense attorneys funded by the police union's Legal Defense Fund. Their strategy: victim reversal. The cops were the real victims. Devon was the real criminal. Everything else was anti-police propaganda. Their lawyer held press conferences portraying both officers as family men serving their community. Brennan coached youth baseball. Stratton volunteered at church. They weren't racists. They were heroes protecting citizens from a dangerous armed man who happened to be military. The narrative manipulation was sophisticated. Focus on Devon's weapon. Ignore that it was legal. Emphasize he fired at police. Ignore that he was defending his life. Question his judgment. Ignore the attempted execution. Mayor Vasquez faced recall petitions but fought back through political machinery. City funds paid for PR firms to reshape public opinion. Oakmont under siege by outside agitators. Federal overreach threatens local control. Rush to judgment ignores officers' rights. The police union organized rallies. Back the blue events that drew hundreds of officers from surrounding counties. They portrayed the investigation as an attack on all law enforcement, not accountability for specific crimes. If they can destroy Brennan and Stratton for doing their job, they can destroy any of us, the union president declared. This is about protecting officers who make split-second decisions under pressure. Except the body camera showed 15 minutes of calculated setup, not split-second decisions. Financial warfare intensified. Oakmont's defense fund reached $400,000 through GoFundMe. Brennan's legal bills were covered by donations from across the country. People who'd never met him sent money to defend our brave officers. Meanwhile, Devon's legal expenses mounted. Private security. Legal team. Expert witnesses. The costs reached six figures despite pro bono support. Anonymous lawsuits targeted him. Frivolous civil claims alleging emotional distress, property damage, defamation. Each required legal response. Each cost time and money. Death by 1,000 cuts. The harassment extended to witnesses. Tommy Carter's equivalent in this story, a passing driver who'd filmed the initial stop, faced a mysterious IRS audit. His footage had been subpoenaed, but suddenly his tax returns from 3 years ago needed investigation. Another witness, a truck driver who'd seen the whole incident, had his commercial driver's license suspended pending investigation of drug use allegations. Completely fabricated. Completely effective at silencing him. The message was clear: help Devon Pierce, suffer consequences. Night attacks began. Devon's apartment building suffered a fire. Arson investigators found accelerants. Nobody was hurt, but the threat was unmistakable. Admiral Pierce's car was keyed in the naval base parking lot, behind security gates, on a military installation. Someone had access and willingness to provoke a 4-star admiral. The psychological toll mounted. Devon woke from nightmares not of combat zones, but of Highway 47. The sound of shattering glass. Brennan's face. The calculations of survival. PTSD doesn't discriminate. Devon met weekly with a Navy psychologist, working through trauma while fighting for his freedom and reputation. They want you to break, his therapist said. Don't give them that victory. But the pressure was designed by people who understood breaking points. Professional operators who'd refined these techniques through decades of protecting corrupt systems. Just when Devon considered settling, accepting some lesser consequence to end the nightmare, an unexpected ally emerged with evidence that would shatter Oakmont's defense completely. The breakthrough came from inside Oakmont PD itself. Officer Andrea Hayes wasn't related to Chief Stone's political network. She was a 12-year veteran who'd watched her department deteriorate into something unrecognizable. She'd filed internal complaints. They'd been ignored. She'd documented incidents. They'd been buried. But she'd never stopped collecting evidence. Waiting for the moment when someone might actually listen. She contacted FBI agent Torres through an encrypted channel. I have everything you need. But I need protection. Torres arranged a secure meeting at a federal facility. Hayes arrived with 2 banker's boxes and a flash drive. Inside, 3 years of systematic corruption documented in meticulous detail. Brennan and Stratton aren't anomalies, Hayes explained, spreading files across the conference table. They're the natural evolution of a department that incentivizes this behavior. The flash drive contained internal emails discussing quota systems. Supervisors praising officers for aggressive revenue generation. Strategies for maximizing civil asset forfeiture. Training materials teaching officers how to escalate confrontations to justify searches and arrests. They have a playbook, Hayes said. It's not written policy. It's institutional knowledge passed between shifts. How to profile. How to provoke. How to document encounters to justify whatever action you take. Torres reviewed email chains that made her blood boil. Officers joking about hunting. Supervisors praising high stop counts and target demographics. Awards given for officers who generated the most forfeiture revenue. This is RICO territory, Torres said quietly. This is organized criminal activity under color of law. But Hayes had more. Personal recordings of roll call meetings where supervisors explicitly told officers to focus on certain types of drivers. Videos of training sessions teaching officers how to control the narrative if things went wrong. In the devastation, Brennan's personnel file. He's been investigated 4 times for excessive force, Hayes revealed. Every investigation cleared him. But read the actual witness statements versus the official conclusions. They don't match. Torres compared documents. Witnesses described aggressive confrontations, racist language, excessive violence. Official reports described necessary force against non-compliant subjects. Someone had systematically rewritten reality to protect Brennan. Who covered for him? Torres asked. Chief Stone. Directly. His signature is on every clearance. The conspiracy went to the top. Not just bad officers. Bad leadership deliberately protecting bad officers. Meanwhile, across the country in Seattle, a retired FBI forensic analyst named Dr. Rachel Kim was watching news coverage of the Devon Pierce case. Something about the police dashboard camera malfunction troubled her. She'd spent 30 years analyzing digital evidence. She knew what real technical failures looked like versus deliberate manipulation. Oakmont PD's explanation didn't match her experience. She contacted Torres. I'll review their camera systems pro bono. If they tamper with evidence, I'll find it. Dr. Kim's analysis was devastating. The dashboard camera hadn't malfunctioned. It had been manually disabled using an override code that required supervisor authorization. Someone with command-level access had deliberately shut it down before Brennan's shift started. "This is premeditated evidence destruction," Dr. Kim stated in her official report. "Someone knew what was going to happen and ensured there would be no independent documentation." The body camera glitches were equally fake. Both cameras had been set to a mode that disabled recording during technical stress. A feature meant for extreme weather conditions, deliberately activated to create documentary blind spots. "They've been doing this for months," Dr. Kim discovered. "Systematic evidence manipulation across dozens of stops. This isn't about Devon Pierce. This is standard operating procedure." Social media reinforcements arrived in unexpected forms. Navy SEAL community members began sharing their own experiences with Oakmont PD. 7 different SEALs had been stopped on Highway 47 in the past year. All while driving through on military business. All harassed beyond normal procedures. "They target military personnel because we're trained not to escalate," one SEAL posted. "They see our discipline as weakness." Devon showed them the difference. Veterans organizations mobilized with sophisticated coordination. The VFW, American Legion, and Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America issued joint statements demanding federal prosecution. Their combined membership of 4 million veterans represented political power politicians couldn't ignore. National civil rights organizations joined the coalition. NAACP Legal Defense Fund, ACLU, Southern Poverty Law Center. Each brought resources, expertise, and media reach that amplified Devon's case beyond a single traffic stop into a referendum on policing itself. Corporate allies emerged unexpectedly. Tech companies that had been developing police accountability software offered their services free. Body camera manufacturers reviewed Oakmont PD's equipment and publicly stated their systems had been deliberately misused. "Our technology is designed to increase transparency," one CEO announced. Oakmont PD weaponized it to hide misconduct. "We're revoking their service contract and offering full cooperation with federal investigators." The financial support shifted dramatically. Devon's Legal Defense Fund, which had struggled to reach $50,000, suddenly exploded to $800,000 as donors nationwide contributed. Veterans sent $20. Tech workers sent $500. Retired admirals sent $10,000. The message was clear: Devon wasn't fighting alone anymore. Academic experts provided crucial reinforcement. Criminology professors analyzed the case for major publications. Their conclusions were damning. Oakmont PD exhibited textbook characteristics of institutional corruption, quota systems, racial profiling, evidence manipulation, whistleblower retaliation, and leadership complicity. "This department doesn't have a few bad apples," Dr. James Chin from Georgetown University wrote in The Atlantic. "It has systemic rot that requires complete restructuring, not reform." Medical evidence provided another breakthrough. Dr. Sarah Lopez, the emergency room physician who'd treated Brennan's gunshot wound, came forward with troubling information. Brennan had bragged about the shooting while receiving treatment. He said, "Should have finished the job before he got his weapon," Dr. Lopez testified in a sworn affidavit. He wasn't talking like someone who'd defended himself. He was talking like someone whose plan had failed. Her testimony destroyed Brennan's self-defense narrative. His own words, spoken when he thought nobody important was listening, revealed premeditation. Stratton, the junior officer, began cracking under pressure. His attorney recognized the obvious: Brennan was the architect. Stratton was the accomplice. Cooperation might mean survival. Through his lawyer, Stratton indicated willingness to testify against Brennan in exchange for reduced charges. He would detail the stop quota system, the revenue incentives, the unwritten rules about targeting certain drivers, and Brennan's specific plan to teach someone a lesson that night. The alliance grew stronger daily. Former Oakmont residents came forward with their own stories. 14 different individuals documented harassment, illegal searches, and financial shakedowns. Each incident followed the same pattern: aggressive stop, escalated confrontation, threats and intimidation, and official indifference to complaints. "We thought we were alone," one woman testified. "We thought nobody would believe us. Seeing Devon fight back gave us courage." Anonymous donations funded a legal clinic specifically for Oakmont PD victims. Attorneys volunteered time to review cases, file complaints, and pursue civil suits. The floodgates opened. By week 3, Oakmont PD faced 47 federal civil rights complaints, 14 civil lawsuits, and a Department of Justice consent decree investigation. The reinforcements Devon had gained weren't just defending him. They were dismantling the entire corrupt system. Admiral Pierce coordinated with Military Legal Command to provide resources beyond individual support. Navy JAG officers began reviewing all military personnel stops in Oakmont jurisdiction. If patterns of discrimination existed, the Pentagon would respond with institutional force. "You targeted one SEAL," Admiral Pierce said in a rare public statement. "You've now engaged the entire United States military legal apparatus. Choose your next moves carefully." The message resonated beyond Oakmont. Police departments nationwide began reviewing their own practices, terrified of becoming the next viral scandal. The Devon Pierce case wasn't just about justice for one man. It was becoming a catalyst for systemic change. As evidence mounted and allies multiplied, the town meeting was scheduled. Public forum. Open testimony. Complete transparency. Both sides would present their cases to the community and the nation watching via livestream. Oakmont would decide its future. Reform or resistance. Accountability or continued corruption. Devon stood surrounded by allies who'd emerged from nowhere, proving that sometimes justice arrives not from systems designed to provide it, but from people who demand it. Oakmont High School auditorium held 1,200 people. By 6 p.m., 1,800 had packed inside. Another 500 stood outside watching on screens. National media filled the back rows. Federal agents monitored for security threats. This wasn't just a town meeting. This was a trial by public opinion with the entire nation watching. Federal mediator Judge Patricia Morgan, retired from the Ninth Circuit, commanded the proceedings. Neutral. Experienced. Unintimidated by political pressure from any direction. "We're here to establish facts, hear testimony, and determine community response to the Devon Pierce incident," she announced. "Evidence will be presented. All parties will be heard. Disruptions will result in removal." Devon sat in the front row wearing his dress uniform. Every ribbon, every medal, every mark of service visible. Behind him, Admiral Pierce, Attorney Hayes, Officer Andrea Hayes, Dr. Kim, Jessica Martinez, and 17 other witnesses ready to testify. Across the aisle, Chief Stone, Mayor Vasquez, Brennan and Stratton's attorneys, and a shrinking group of supporters who'd begun to recognize they'd chosen the wrong side. Judge Morgan activated the main screens. "We'll begin with video evidence. This is body camera footage from Lieutenant Devon Pierce, captured during the Highway 47 incident." The auditorium fell silent as the video played. Unedited. Complete. Crystal clear. Devon's polite compliance. Brennan's aggressive escalation. The illegal search. The planted weapon visible in Stratton's hands. The execution setup. The gunshots. Devon's precision return fire. His controlled response. His immediate invocation of rights. 15 minutes of undeniable truth. Gasps rippled through the crowd at moments they hadn't seen in media coverage. Brennan pocketing Devon's permit. Stratton positioning the throwaway weapon. The coordinated positioning before opening fire. "That's attempted murder," someone whispered loudly enough to echo. Judge Morgan displayed dashboard camera records next. Oakmont PD claimed technical malfunction. Dr. Rachel Kim conducted independent analysis. Dr. Kim approached the microphone with forensic precision. The dashboard camera was manually disabled using supervisor override code 7-7 alpha. This code requires command authorization. Someone with access to Chief Stone's credentials shut down this camera 1 hour before Officer Brennan's shift began. Chief Stone's face went pale. His attorney whispered frantically. Furthermore, Dr. Kim continued, analysis of body camera systems shows deliberate manipulation. Both officers activated stealth mode, a feature designed for undercover operations, during a routine traffic stop. This disables recording while maintaining the appearance of functionality. The evidence was irrefutable. Premeditated. Coordinated. Criminal. Officer Andrea Hayes testified next, her voice steady despite obvious anxiety. I've served Oakmont PD for 12 years. I've watched it transform from community policing to revenue generation through systematic harassment of minorities and military personnel. She detailed quota systems, email chains, training that taught escalation rather than de-escalation. A culture where aggressive officers were rewarded and conscientious officers were marginalized. Brennan wasn't a bad apple, Hayes stated clearly. He was doing exactly what the system encouraged. The rot isn't in individual officers. It's in leadership that created incentives for this behavior. Her testimony destroyed the few bad apples defense. This was institutional policy wrapped in deniability. Stratton's attorney stood. My client wishes to make a statement. Judge Morgan nodded. Officer Mike Stratton approached the microphone, hands shaking. No uniform. Civilian clothes. A man who'd seen his future and chose cooperation over loyalty. I'm here to tell the truth, Stratton began. Officer Brennan planned to provoke Lieutenant Pierce into a situation that would justify use of force. We'd done it before with other drivers. Target someone, escalate until they react, justify whatever force we used by claiming they were non-compliant or aggressive. The auditorium exploded. Judge Morgan called for order. Stratton continued, voice cracking. The throwaway weapon was insurance. If we couldn't provoke a reaction, we'd plant evidence and claim he'd reached for it. Brennan told me this during briefing. I went along because I was afraid of retaliation if I refused. How many times? Judge Morgan asked. Stratton's silence spoke volumes. Finally, I was present for 11 similar stops in 8 months. Not all involved weapons. Most were intimidation and illegal searches that resulted in asset forfeiture. The confession devastated Oakmont PD's remaining credibility. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was operating procedure. Jessica Martinez presented her documented evidence next. 14 victims. 47 incidents. 3 years of harassment. Financial records showing $450,000 in civil asset forfeitures that funded department equipment and officer bonuses. Oakmont PD turned traffic enforcement into highway robbery, she stated. They targeted minorities and military personnel because these groups were least likely to fight back legally. Devon Pierce fought back, and it exposed everything. Community members testified to their own experiences. A black college professor stopped 6 times in 2 years, always near the city limits, always when driving alone. A Hispanic veteran whose cash savings for his daughter's wedding was seized as suspected drug money and never returned. An Asian American business owner whose vehicle was impounded on false charges, costing him $3,000 in towing and storage fees. The pattern was undeniable. Systematic. Racially targeted. Financially motivated. Devon finally took the stand. The auditorium fell completely silent. I served 4 tours defending American freedoms, he said quietly. I survived combat in places most people can't find on a map. I came home believing I'd earned the right to drive through my own country without fear. I was wrong. His voice remained steady, but emotion leaked through. Officer Brennan tried to execute me because he assumed I was powerless. Because he'd done it before and gotten away with it. Because the system protected him rather than the citizens he'd sworn to serve. Devon looked directly at Chief Stone. This isn't about me. It's about every person who didn't have body camera evidence. Every victim who was blamed for their own victimization. Every family that accepted injustice because fighting seemed impossible. The auditorium erupted in applause. Judge Morgan allowed it. Chief Stone's attorney attempted damage control. My client acknowledges problems but maintains they weren't systemic. Reforms are already underway. Reforms started 3 weeks ago when you got caught, Judge Morgan interrupted. Where were these reforms during 3 years of documented abuse? No answer. Mayor Vasquez tried political spin. The city takes these allegations seriously and commits to comprehensive review. Mayor Vasquez, Judge Morgan cut her off. Federal investigators have determined you received campaign donations from the police union totaling $47,000 while complaints against officers went uninvestigated. Your commitment appears financially motivated. The mayor sat down, face flushed. Judge Morgan addressed the packed auditorium. Based on evidence presented, I'm recommending the following: immediate termination of Officers Brennan and Stratton, resignation of Chief Stone, federal consent decree requiring DOJ oversight of Oakmont PD for 5 years, establishment of civilian review board with subpoena power, financial restitution to all documented victims, and full cooperation with ongoing federal prosecutions. The vote was called. Community members weighed in through electronic polling distributed throughout the auditorium. The results displayed on screen. Support for recommended actions, 1,247. Opposition, 143. Abstain, 87. Oakmont had spoken. Justice had won. As the meeting concluded, Devon stood surrounded by people thanking him, sharing their own stories, finding courage in his fight. He'd been forced to shoot back to survive. But his real victory wasn't on Highway 47. It was here, watching a community choose accountability over complicity. 6 months later, Oakmont looked different. Not just in appearance, but in spirit. Chief Robert Stone had resigned in disgrace, pension forfeited due to federal corruption charges. Mayor Linda Vasquez lost her recall election by a margin wider than any in city history. The entire Oakmont City Council turned over in special elections that prioritized reform candidates. Officer Kyle Brennan faced trial in federal court on 17 counts, deprivation of rights under color of law, attempted murder, evidence tampering, conspiracy, and 9 counts of civil rights violations related to previous stops. His attorney negotiated a plea deal. 23 years federal prison. No parole. Officer Mike Stratton received 8 years in exchange for full cooperation and testimony against Brennan and departmental leadership. His statement to the judge included a tearful apology that rang hollow to victims who'd suffered while he stayed silent. The Department of Justice consent decree transformed Oakmont PD completely. Federal monitors oversaw every policy change. New leadership implemented community policing models. Mandatory de-escalation training. Body cameras that couldn't be manually disabled. Civilian review board with actual authority to investigate and discipline. The quota system was abolished. Revenue generation metrics were removed from performance evaluations. Civil asset forfeiture required judicial approval before seizure. Traffic stop demographics were published monthly with public accountability. Officer Andrea Hayes was promoted to chief, the first woman and first reform-minded leader in department history. Her first act was establishing a victims' restitution program funded by recovered assets from previous illegal seizures. We're rebuilding trust one interaction at a time, Chief Hayes told reporters. That's going to take years. But it starts with acknowledging what we did wrong and committing to never repeat it. The financial settlements were substantial. Devon Pierce received $4.2 million in compensatory and punitive damages. He donated $2 million to establish the Military Personnel Legal Defense Fund, providing free legal support to service members facing civilian legal challenges. 14 other victims received settlements totaling $3.7 million. Jessica Martinez used her portion to found the Oakmont Accountability Project, a watchdog organization monitoring police conduct across the region. The ripple effects spread nationally. The Devon Pierce case became a law enforcement training example of what happens when institutional corruption meets accountability. Police departments in 47 states revised their policies on traffic stops, body cameras, and civil rights compliance. Congressional legislation was introduced mandating federal oversight for any department with civil rights violation patterns. The Devon Pierce Act didn't pass in its first session, but momentum was building. Change was happening, slowly but measurably. Devon returned to active duty with Naval Special Warfare. His SEAL team welcomed him back with the quiet respect warriors show for brothers who've survived a different kind of combat. He'd faced bullets in Kandahar. He'd faced hatred on Highway 47. He'd survived both. His relationship with his father deepened through shared struggle. Admiral Pierce retired from active duty 6 months after the incident, but his final act was establishing a Pentagon-level review process for any law enforcement contact with military personnel showing potential bias patterns. "My son shouldn't have had to fight for his life twice," Admiral Pierce said during his retirement ceremony. "Once against America's enemies abroad. Once against corruption at home. We've ensured future service members won't face that second battle alone." Devon still drove Highway 47 occasionally. Not to avoid it, but to reclaim it. The first time he passed mile marker 23, his heart rate spiked. Muscle memory of survival. But he kept driving, refusing to let fear dictate his movements. A historical marker now stood at that location, site of civil rights incident, March 2025. Reminder that justice requires courage from those willing to stand against injustice, regardless of cost. Devon stopped once to read it. Touched the metal plaque. Remembered the sound of shattering glass and the calculation of survival. But also remembered the community that rallied, the allies who emerged, the system that eventually bent toward justice. Oakmont's transformation continued. 3 new minority-owned businesses opened downtown. A Diversity and Inclusion Commission was established with real budget authority. The annual community policing report showed dramatic improvement in trust metrics across all demographics. The high school where the town meeting occurred now taught the Devon Pierce case in civics classes. Students studied body camera footage, reviewed legal documents, and discussed what happened when institutions failed and individuals stood up. "One person with courage can change a system," one teacher told her class. "But that person needs a community willing to stand with them." Devon Pierce was brave. But so were the witnesses who testified, the whistleblowers who came forward, and the citizens who demanded accountability. A year after the shooting, Devon was invited to speak at Oakmont High's graduation. He stood at the same podium where Judge Morgan had conducted the public reckoning, looking out at faces representing the town's future. "I didn't want to be a symbol," Devon told the graduates. "I just wanted to drive home safely." But sometimes ordinary people face extraordinary moments that define not just their lives, but their communities. What matters isn't the crisis. It's how you respond. He paused, making eye contact across the auditorium. "Some of you will face injustice. Some will witness it. Some will be asked to stay silent when speaking up costs something. Those are the moments that matter. Not because you're special, but because justice requires ordinary people making brave choices." The applause was genuine. Oakmont had learned something profound through pain. Jessica Martinez continued her advocacy work, expanding beyond Oakmont to assist other communities facing police misconduct. Her organization trained citizens on documenting interactions, knowing their rights, and pursuing accountability through proper channels. Devon's case proved that evidence and persistence can defeat corruption, she told a national civil rights conference. But it also showed how many people suffer in silence before someone with resources fights back. We're working to ensure everyone has those resources. The Oakmont PD transformation wasn't perfect. Some officers resisted change. Some community members clung to old attitudes. But the direction was clear: accountability over impunity, service over domination, justice over convenience. Chief Hayes implemented monthly community forums where citizens could question police practices without fear of retaliation. Attendance grew steadily as trust rebuilt slowly, painfully, necessarily. 2 years after the shooting, Devon married his longtime girlfriend in a ceremony attended by his SEAL team, his father's Navy colleagues, Officer Andrea Hayes, Jessica Martinez, and over 300 people whose lives had been touched by his fight for justice. The wedding was private, but the guest list told the story: warriors and activists, federal agents and community organizers, people who'd found common cause in demanding that badges come with accountability. Devon Pierce never wanted to be a hero. He'd earned that title in combat theaters most Americans couldn't find on a map. But his real heroism came on Highway 47, when he refused to die quietly, documented everything, and fought back with precision that matched his SEAL training. But the number that mattered most was one man who refused to accept that his life was worthless, one man who proved that courage and evidence could defeat institutional corruption, one man who drove home safely after all, with his dignity intact and his community transformed. Devon still wears his American flag pin. Still drives with precision. Still maintains his military bearing. But now when he passes through Oakmont, people wave. Kids point. Veterans salute. He'd survived an assassination attempt by cops who thought badges made them untouchable. He'd proven that justice, though difficult and costly, was possible when ordinary people found extraordinary courage. The transformation wasn't complete. It never would be. But it had begun, one traffic stop, one body camera, one act of self-defense at a time. And Devon Pierce could finally drive Highway 47 without calculating survival. He'd won more than his freedom. He'd won the right to simply be, without apology, without fear, without having to prove his humanity through credentials and connections. That was the real victory. Not just for him, but for everyone who'd suffered silently, hoping someday someone would fight back and win. Someday had arrived. And Oakmont, however reluctantly, had learned that badges don't grant immunity from justice. They only delay it until someone brave enough stands up and says, "Not today, not me, not anymore." Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.